What if I told you that the most powerful weapon on this entire planet is not money, not talent, not even intelligence? It is an unshakable mind. What if everything that has ever broken you, every failure that kept you up at 3 in the morning, every person who doubted you, every door that was slammed in your face, what if all of that was actually building you instead of destroying you? What if the difference between the person you are today and the person you have always dreamed of becoming is not luck, not opportunity, not even hard work alone, but simply the way you respond to life when life refuses to cooperate? The greatest minds in human history did not succeed because life was easy. They succeeded because nothing could stop them. Not failure, not rejection, not poverty, not pain. Today, I am going to show you exactly why nothing bothers successful people. And by the time this speech is over, you will never look at your problems the same way again. Stay with me. Every single word from this point forward has the power to completely transform your life. Are you ready? Because this changes everything. What if the single greatest discovery in the history of human achievement was not made in a laboratory, was not found buried in gold mines, was not written in the contracts of billionaires, but was discovered quietly, deeply, and powerfully inside the human mind itself? What if I told you that every person who has ever risen from absolute nothing to extraordinary greatness, from poverty to power, from rejection to recognition, from broken to brilliant, shared one invisible, unspoken secret that the world never fully taught you in school, never handed to you in a certificate, and never whispered to you during your darkest nights? That secret is this: nothing can disturb the person who has decided with every cell of their being exactly who they are and exactly where they are going. Let me explain this to you in a way that will shake something awake inside of you. Think about the most successful person you have ever admired. Think about the entrepreneur who built an empire from a single room with no furniture. Think about the athlete who trained in the rain when everyone else went home. Think about the visionary who was laughed at in every boardroom before the entire world stood up and applauded. What separated them from the millions of others who gave up? Was it talent? No. Was it luck? Absolutely not. Was it education? Not even close. It was the quality of their mental soil. It was the territory of their inner world. It was the iron fortress they had built around their purpose, so strong, so defined, so deeply rooted that when the storms of life arrived, and they always arrive, those storms simply passed over them like weather passes over a mountain. A mountain does not panic during a storm. A mountain does not negotiate with the wind. A mountain does not ask the rain for permission to remain standing. It simply stands. And that is exactly what successful people do. They stand, they breathe, they adjust, and then they move forward. Now, let me tell you something that most people will never understand about failure. Failure is not the enemy of success. Failure is the curriculum of success. Every great achievement in human history was preceded by spectacular, embarrassing, painful public failure. The businesses that changed industries were built on the graves of a dozen previous ideas that collapsed. The relationships that inspired the world were forged through years of misunderstanding and growth. The bodies that performed miracles were trained through thousands of mornings of exhaustion and resistance. But here is what the average person does with failure. They personalize it. They look at a failed attempt and say, I am a failure. They look at a rejected idea and say, I am not good enough. They look at a closed door and say, the universe is against me. And the moment you personalize your failure, you have given it the one thing it needs to destroy you: your identity. Successful people do something radically different. They look at failure and say, this is data. They say, this is feedback. They say, this is information I did not have before, and now I do. And now I am more equipped than I was yesterday. They extract the lesson, they leave the emotion, and they move forward with more intelligence than they had before the failure arrived. This is not coldness. This is not emotional detachment. This is the highest form of mental courage, because it takes tremendous bravery to face your own pain clearly, learn from it honestly, and refuse to let it write the story of your life. Now, I want you to understand something about desire, because this is where everything changes. There is a kind of desire that most people experience. It is the kind that appears when life is comfortable, when things are going well, when the sun is shining and the path is clear. That desire is pleasant. It is motivating, but it is also fragile. The moment difficulty arrives, that kind of desire evaporates like morning mist. But there is another kind of desire, a burning desire, a desire so intense, so consuming, so deeply embedded in the core of a person's being that it cannot be extinguished by failure, cannot be drowned by criticism, cannot be frozen by fear. This is the desire that built civilizations. This is the desire that crossed oceans. This is the desire that looked at the impossible and said, with absolute calm and total certainty, I will find a way or I will make one. When your desire is burning at that level, when your purpose is that clearly defined inside of you, something extraordinary happens to your psychology. Problems lose their size. Obstacles become irrelevant detours. Other people's opinions become background noise. And the fears that once paralyzed you simply cannot find a place to land, because every inch of your mental space is already occupied by something far more powerful. It is occupied by vision. You see, most people are bothered by life because they are living without a clearly defined destination. They wake up every morning and react to whatever the world throws at them. They allow their emotions to be controlled by their circumstances. The traffic makes them angry. The criticism makes them defeated. The setback makes them hopeless. They are living like a ship without a compass in the middle of an ocean, being pushed in whatever direction the wind decides, but the person with a definiteness of purpose, the person who has sat down, looked deeply into their own soul, and declared with absolute conviction what they are here to achieve and why they are here to achieve it. That person navigates the same ocean in a completely different way. The storms do not disappear, but this person has a compass. And when you have a compass, a storm is just weather. It is temporary. It passes. And when it passes, you are still moving in exactly the right direction. Let me tell you something about the mind that very few people ever truly grasp. Your mind is not just a thinking machine. Your mind is a filtering machine. Every single moment of every single day, your mind is deciding what deserves your attention, what deserves your energy, what deserves your emotional response. And that filter, that invisible gatekeeper, is shaped entirely by the beliefs, the values, the habits, and the dominant thoughts you have trained your mind to hold. If you have trained your mind to believe that every problem is a threat, that every setback is a catastrophe, that every challenge is proof that you are not enough, then your filter will capture every difficulty and magnify it beyond proportion. Every small inconvenience will feel like a personal attack. Every minor obstacle will feel like an insurmountable wall. And you will spend your entire life being exhausted, overwhelmed, and defeated by circumstances that other people walk through without even breaking their stride. But if you train your mind deliberately, consistently, and with discipline to believe that challenges are simply tests of your commitment, that setbacks are simply redirections of your path, that criticism is simply the world paying attention to you, then your filter changes entirely. And when your filter changes, your entire experience of reality changes with it. The same world, the same circumstances, but a completely different life. This is not wishful thinking. This is not positive delusion. This is the precise scientific, psychological truth that the greatest achievers in human history understood and applied every single day of their extraordinary lives. They understood that the mind is a garden, and you get to choose what grows in it. You can grow fear or you can grow faith. You can grow doubt or you can grow determination. You can grow resentment or you can grow resolve. But here is the non-negotiable truth. You cannot grow both at the same time. Whatever you plant most frequently, whatever you water most consistently, whatever you give your daily mental attention to, that is what will grow. And what grows in your mind will ultimately determine what grows in your life. Now let us talk about the people around you, because this is a piece of the puzzle that most people underestimate with devastating consequences. The people you surround yourself with are not just companions. They are architects of your belief system. Every conversation you have, every relationship you maintain, every voice you allow into your mental environment is either expanding your capacity for greatness or slowly, quietly, invisibly shrinking it. Successful people understand this at a cellular level. They are fiercely protective of their mental environment. They do not spend their most valuable hours with people who have made a career out of complaining. They do not sit at tables where their dreams are treated as jokes. They do not allow the fear of mediocre minds to become the ceiling of their own ambition. This is not arrogance. This is mental hygiene. Just as you would not voluntarily breathe in poison every day and expect your body to remain healthy, you cannot voluntarily consume the energy of limited, fearful, negative thinking every day and expect your mind to remain powerful. The people who surround successful individuals tend to share one common quality. They are builders. They build ideas. They build solutions. They build each other. When one person in the group faces a wall, the others help them find a door. When one person loses their footing, the others extend a hand, not because the struggle is gone, but because the support makes the struggle bearable and ultimately conquerable. And here is something deeply important that I need you to sit with for a moment. The reason nothing bothers successful people is not because they do not feel pain. It is not because they are immune to disappointment. It is not because they have been handed a life free from heartbreak, free from betrayal, free from devastating loss. They feel every single thing that you feel. They have been brought to their knees by life, just as you have. The difference is what they do in that moment on their knees. The average person stays there. The successful person uses that position to push harder off the ground. They have developed something that most people never cultivate, and that is emotional resilience. Resilience is not the absence of pain. Resilience is the presence of recovery. It is the trained ability to be knocked down and get back up faster each time. It is the discipline to feel the emotion, acknowledge it honestly, and then choose, not react, but choose to what comes next. And every time they make that choice, every time they decide to rise rather than remain, that muscle of resilience grows stronger. Until one day, and this is the day that changes everything, the very circumstances that once had the power to destroy them no longer even slow them down. Not because those circumstances have changed, but because they have changed. They have become someone who is simply too strong, too clear, too purposeful, and too deeply rooted for temporary difficulty to uproot. That is the person you are capable of becoming, not someday, not when circumstances improve, not when the world finally decides to cooperate, right now. With the mind you have, with the breath in your lungs, with the story that is still being written, right now, in this very moment, you have the complete and total capacity to decide that nothing will stop you. You have the capacity to look at every obstacle in your life and say, "You are not my ending, you are my education." You have the capacity to look at every person who doubted you and say, "Your doubt was simply your limitation, not mine." You have the capacity to look at every failure behind you and say, "Thank you. You made me exactly who I needed to be to reach where I am going." This is the psychology of greatness. This is the mental architecture of every person who has ever built something extraordinary from absolutely nothing. And it is available to every human being on this planet, including you, including me, without exception and without condition. The question is never whether you are capable. The question is whether you are willing. Willing to protect your mind. Willing to define your purpose. Willing to turn your pain into power. Willing to let your burning desire consume every doubt that has ever tried to convince you that you are not enough. Because you are enough. You have always been enough. The only thing standing between the life you are living and the life you deserve is the story you are telling yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. Change that story and you change everything. So go forward, not with perfection, not with all the answers, but with the unshakable belief that nothing, no failure, no fear, no opinion, no obstacle has the final say in the story of your life. You do.